What's going on, guys? This is Damien from The Lookout, and I am here with my top 5 rogue decks to play. So these are my choices for competitive events. They are based on the data that we have gathered from previous competitive events, and there are some rogue decks here, some decks which have performed pretty well across the last 7 regional events, but they're still niche or in small quantities enough to actually be defined as rogue decks. You'll see what I'm talking about. But before we start, 3 things. First off, huge shout out to our patrons, the Coffee Club. Ryan, Frank, Nave, Bryce, Derek, Jakub and Adnan. Thank you guys so much for buying us coffee, for being our patrons and helping us buy the new table so that we can hopefully never flip it again. Guys, if you wish to support us this way, you absolutely don't need to. We're not gating anything behind the paywall. But, you know, we do all of this for free, so, you know, it's a nice bonus to have to drink some more coffee. You know, you saw how much coffee I drink during the live stream. Come on, man. So, if you want to support us this way, a link to the Patreon is in the description below. It's really highly appreciated. Second, Xenoverse, 27th of May. Just a couple of weeks left. We are opening registrations on 21st of May. Go play Xenoverse. It's a free event, no prizes, free event, no bans, no limits, Samiratas. It's gonna be streamed, it's gonna be complete chaos. Trust me, it's gonna be one of the hopefully biggest online events. It's gonna be insane. Link is in the description below. Go to our Discord. And finally, guys, we're on our way to 3,000 subs. We have about 600 left to go, and I think that we might be able to pull that off by the end of BT21 spoiler season now that I'm back to grinding. So yeah, guys, it really helps out a lot if you click the share button, like and subscribe. Let's hit 3,000 and that's it. Roll the video! As with all of our videos, let's start with the breakdown. So first we will go over some definitions. What do we consider rogue decks? How did we pick them? Then I'll show you the deck list. So we'll go pick deck list, pick deck list. Then we'll just end it with the summary. No, we're not. I actually forgot about the summary. Outdated slide. And that's it. Let's go. Let's define rogue decks. Non-meta, non-standardized picks. That's what we're going with as our definition. But they also still need to be capable of topping events. And all of them have topped events except one. All of them have topped events fairly recently, I might add. We have looked at our global data, which we have been collecting, to find some rogue decks for you to play. Almost all of these, like I said, have topped regional events at least once. All of them except one. And we've tried to be creative with some of them. There's only one which is very close to meta, and the rest of them are pretty creative, I believe. I hope so. So let's just jump into it with number 1. Number 1, Cooler Mill. So this is our red pick. Cooler has been doing very well since the start of BT20 format. It has topped a couple of events. It has been in the top 16, in the top 4, I believe in France. I believe, if I recall correctly, Cooler Mill has always been here somewhere in the top 16. It has been proving constantly that it has what it takes to top events, but it's still, you know, so niche, and there's still not a lot of them, which is okay for our definition of rogue deck. So yeah, if you want a pick that isn't standard, go with Cooler Mill. I wanted to put Pen Reboot here, but Cooler Mill has performed better, so I chose to go with this one instead. The deck preys on wide board decks and decks which draw a lot, both of which exist in the current meta, and Cooler Mill is strong whenever there is no barrier. Plus now he has Shield, who ignores barrier, so yeah, not a lot of things have barrier at the moment. which makes Cooler very, very strong in the current metagame. It is fairly easy to pilot and very, very frustrating to play against, so you should go and try it and play it against people and just teach them why meal 2 please is bad. Let's look at the list. Alright, here is the deck. So it's basically a pretty standard build of Cooler. So what do we have here? We have, we have the standard package for negating. 4 copies of Tyrannical Assault, 4 copies of Shield. Shield now also ignores Barrier, which is super important. 4 copies of Hercule and Majin Buu. We have chosen to go with only 2 copies of Son Gohan, because I really want decks to be around 50 cards. I really want them to be around 50 cards. So only 2 copies of Gohan. We've really tried to narrow it down. You have your super combos, you have the Cooler here, which helps you get some things back. For the Unison, you can only go with Jiren. I was thinking 4 copies of Jiren, 3 copies of Videl. Maybe you can go with 4, but once again, 50 cards in the deck. 3 copies of Oceanus, maybe you can bump this one to 4 instead of 4 Videls. I think 3 is okay, I think 4 is better. 1 Yamcha, just a single Yamcha. You can do without this one, but when you have a Unison out plus Yamcha hits 2 things, that is double the negation and the mill. It's okay. It's pretty good. 2 copies of the Monkey for some extra draws. You need to main Dirty Burst. For Senzu Beans, you're playing an Arrival deck. Senzu Bean is great here. Just to testing the oppositions, you can play with some ratios here, like I said. 4 copies of Wolfang Fist. Yes, some decks play small barrier things, and they play, Wolfang Fist range of barrier things. So, yeah, it's pretty good to have this one. Plus, it negates, also triggers your mill. And for the secret rare, I wanted to go with as budget as possible. Just go with SS3 Gohanks. Because when he's played, he, ignoring barrier, gives minus 25k to all of your opponent's battle cards. This can trigger your mill multiple times in a single turn. You can just flat out win the game with this one. You have the Z deck here. We don't have side decks for any of these deck lists, because side decks really depend on the meta of the tournament that you're attending. Standard. 2 copies of Vegeta, 1 Cell, 2 Beeruses, and I went with 2 copies of Surmounting the Impossible. What I could have done is just went with, -1 Surmounting, +1 Cell, but you don't really want to use Cell to wipe the board. You don't want to wipe the board that way. You want to wipe them by minusing them, not just by flat out layering everything. So yeah, this is the Cooler deck. Let's check out number 2. Our blue pick is Janemba Mill, another mill deck. Janemba has also been performing very well at all events that it basically showed up at. So not a lot of events, but performed very well, and I just had to put it here because it performed well, guys. I was thinking of maybe putting like Soul Striker or Trunks Reboot, but those are becoming more of standard choices, while Janemba still falls in the rogue category, at least if you ask me. This deck combines high defenses with its ability to mill your opponent very fast. It's fairly easy to pilot. Once again, very, very frustrating to play against, which is why you should try it. Let's go and check out the deck. What we have for you here is Tim's deck from Oceania, basically. I'm not a Janemba player, but Tim is a phenomenal Janemba player. We have this deck profile on the channel. Go and check it out. So, basically, he explains everything there. I have tinkered a bit. No, I haven't tinkered a bit with anything. It's 52 cards. I tried to put it down to 50, but I think 52 is a good enough number. You're just playing a single battle card, this one. And then you have your Unison, and everything else is defenses. Everything else is defenses. Semi-super combos, quasi-super combos, 4 copies of super combos, more draw engines, and then we go negate, buff, and some more negates. So yeah, you're just milling your opponent and hiding behind a wall until you can actually just mill them in one turn and flat out just win the game out of nowhere. Z deck is 2 copies of Beerus, 2 copies of Name in the Name of Hunger Android 21, 2 copies of Cell because you're being very defensive, so you want Cell out to clear the board, and in case you get there, 1 copy of Vegito. 1 copy of Vegito if you get that far in the game. Yeah, there is not much more to say. Go check out the deck profile. Let's dive into number 3. Number 3 is Apeco, the only quote-unquote meta pick. He is the most meta choice on the list. Why? Because Apeco, out of all of these decks, Apeco has most consistently been in the top 16. It's still overshadowed by other yellow decks like Trunks Jita, Majin Vegeta, Golden Frieza. Much better, much stronger than Apeco. But Apeco has the cool ability to rest everything. It has a quite strong but quite small engine, which allows you to put in a lot of good stuff cards in there. We have tinkered a bit with some lists until we came up with something that we're happy with. It's not the easiest deck to pilot. Yellow isn't easy to pilot. Yellow, I mean, I know some people will just say yellow is not a pilot. There is a decent amount of decision making in yellow decks, specifically in Apeco, and yeah, it's not the easiest to pilot, and it's also not the cheapest. If you are in NA region, if you're ordering from TCG Player and not from Card Market, this deck can get very expensive. It can really get very expensive. So just be warned. Let's check out the deck list. So this is our Apeco list. Immediately you can see the best secret rare in the game. You're number 1. Everyone runs this secret rare. In this deck it actually does some things. So we have the relatively small engine here of Yamcha, Bulma, and then you have the 3 different versions of Gokus. I opted to go with only 3 apes instead of 4 because I was looking for some more room to keep it as close to 50 cards as possible. Managed to narrow it down to 52. Didn't really hit that 50 mark, but I think that you can probably tinker with something here and reach the 50 mark, the ideal sweet spot. We have 2 copies of Universe at Stake. I like this one more than I like Turles. And you're playing your number 1. So you just combine these 2 and that's it. 2 copies of the most balanced yellow card in the game. 1 copy of Cooler. Then we have our super combos. We have 7 robotic riposte effects. So 4 robotics, 3 Vegetos. For our unisons, we are running the in-archetype Bulma, but because Bulma can get a decent number of markers on it, we can just play 3 copies of Gohan and then just absorb the marker, swing 3 times. For our negates, we are playing 3 Frieza's reinforcements, 2 tyrannical blows, 2 released from evils, 1 power of the Super Saiyan. You might not need this one necessarily in the deck just because you're resting so much with your leader. And of course, you are number 1. Yeah, I think this is fine. I think you just need to tinker a bit with some numbers here. Like, yeah, if you can use this one. It's more difficult to use him than it is to use Turles because it's 2 energy. If your leader is a yellow Z leader or you have a yellow Z battle card in play and your opponent has 3 or more energy, you can play him from your hand. And if there's an extra card in your battle area, there won't be any, you draw 1 card. So yeah, it's more difficult than just like pay 2 KO stuff. But I believe that this is a much more powerful card. Plus, again, you are number 1. Let me read it for people. Ultimate activate main battle. If your leader is a Saiyan, which Goku is, or Earthlink card, mono yellow, both mono yellow, and your opponent has 3 or more energy, choose up to 1 of your opponent's cards, ignoring barrier, switch it to rest mode, and play up to 1 yellow Son Goku. There it is, Universe at Stake. Card from your deck, hand, or drop. Shuffle your deck if you've looked through it, and for the turn, the card played gets plus 10k power, triple strike, and dual attack, and can be removed by skills. So yeah, there's a lot to do here. There's really a lot to do here. Finally, we have the Z deck, two copies of the Z leader. Because you're playing semi-controlish here, it's good to have more finishers. So I'm just going with two copies of this one instead of one copy. It's good to push for damage. This one, which if you combined it with Sin Shenron, you basically win the game. Two copies of Vegeta, because this card is absolutely busted. And just one surmounting the impossible. That's it. Let's jump into number 4. Number 4, and probably my favorite one on the list, SS3 Bardock for black. Now, you might be asking, Damien, why not Hedge instead? Because Hedge performed better than SS3 Bardock. Not super sure on that info. Actually, I think they actually performed 2 and 2 when it comes to top 16s. But still, this isn't one that you really see. And that's why I'm proud of it, because it's really a rogue pick. It's a bit of a wild card, but it's still good. This is a mono black hyper aggro build of the deck. It's inspired by a deck which topped the Latam event. Our main goal is to hit our opponent a bunch of times for critical damage and win lightning fast. So you don't care about prismatic build or anything else. No, you're just going for black cards. Black cards and critical. Super fast deck. It's very, very easy to pilot. It's a bit of a different take on black aggro decks, because when you think black aggro deck, you think Supreme Kai of Time. But if you want to play a different type of black aggro deck, one that's very good in best of one, go with this one. Now, let's check it out. Okay, let's check out this absolute monster of a deck. So, first things first, leader's ability. Once per turn, you burst free. If you put a black card in your drop, he gains critical. Nothing else matters. Let's start with 4 copies of Masked Saiyan, Belligerent Warrior. He costs 1, which, yeah, you're paying 1. You're not usually paying a lot in this deck. But then, like, he removes 2 things, his Deflect, gains critical for the turn 20k. Pretty good for 1 energy. Now, for our critical package, we're running 4 copies of Revived Ravager Vegeta, 3 copies of Man on a Mission. We're going with 52 cards because we're milling a lot. You can take out, let's say, 1 Man on a Mission and 1 of something else to drop to 50. 4 copies. This is why the deck might be very expensive. 4 copies of SS4 Vegeta. So it's basically Dark Broly. You can run 4 copies of Dark Broly if you wish instead of this. But it has this added ability. Activate main, limit 1 for 1 black. If your leader is black, which it is, your opponent has 3 or more energy, which is like not the best case scenario. That means you didn't kill them fast enough, but still, if it happens, it happens. And you have a Son Goku Xeno with an original power of 30k or more in play. You will have that. Play this card from your hand, and then it gains critical. So this is another critical attacker, plus it has combo power, which is just making it crazy. This is the 30k Goku, Beyond All Limits. You know what this card does. It saves things from the warp. Then we have 2 copies of Masked Saiyan. So we have the Goku for 30k. He can grab us things from the warp, and then we can basically warp our opponent's things with Masked Saiyan. So recursion, removal, more removal with SS4 Vegeta fainted greetings. I think. I'm sorry, my tongue dances when I'm talking fast. Then we have SS3 Gogeta thwarting the Dark Empire, the card that you can just keep bringing back with this one. 2 copies of Bardock the Tenacious to, stall for time a bit if you're in not a good matchup. Then we have 4 copies of the Supreme Kai combo, 4 copies of the Super combo. I opted to go with 2 copies of Fearless Fusion because it's a barrier removal. That's it. It's barrier removal, and you don't really have barrier removal. Go with this one then. And then the big thing, 4 copies of Crack in Spacetime. Because when you give your leader critical and you play Crack in Spacetime, now he's 30k double striker, critical, and activate battle. Devastating. 4 copies of Power Burst, because this open TCG player instead, lol. 3 negate. 2 copies of Super Kamehameha, 2 copies of Protector of the People, 3 copies of Support of the Dark Empire, and the only SCR that I believe you should play in this deck, Evil Saiyan. Super expensive. Super expensive. Maybe you can go with Pan instead. You can probably go with Pan instead. But if you have this card, yeah, play this card because this card is phenomenal in this deck. That's the deck. Let's check our last pick. And for green, our final pick isn't Gotenks, it's King Cold. It's King Cold. Jamie keeps coming to my streams asking where is King Cold. Here is King Cold. King Cold is the best green deck in the game. I'm saying this because I'm heavily biased. It does everything that you want green to do, and it has an in-archetype Champa, which is awesome. This is an aggro crit heavy build inspired by Scrub Games. Go check out his channel, he explains this build much better than I can. It's a very, very easy deck to pilot. You cheat in a bunch of green crit guys and then you just attack. Like, that's it. Let's go and check out the deck list. Here is the crit aggro King Cold deck list. So we're playing the, standard field package. Instead of going for free terrified realizations, we're going with free unstoppable invasions because it's a Champa. It gives our leader plus 10k and double strike. You have the standard 4 copies of the Unison, 4 copies of Berry Blue, and now we're playing 2 new cards, relatively new cards. So this is the last year's champ pack, King Cold. Critical, you can reduce his cost down to 2. Activate main once per turn, you choose 1 green field card with an energy cost of 2 or less, and you place it into your drop. You choose one of your opponent's battle cards, doesn't matter the cost, KO it, and then you add 1 green field card with the cost 2 or less from your drop to your Z energy. You can cheat it out with Anticipated Onslaught. You can chain your Anticipated Onslaught multiple times with Berry Blues. I mean, not multiple times, but it depends on how you actually do this. Then you can use, like, let's say if you have more of these in hand, you can use your King Cold's ability to kill it. You can bring it back with Berry Blue. You can play this guy, use his activate main, kill it, play another one from the hand, activate its ability, play another King Cold. There's a lot that you can do here. Then the only card that isn't in the archetype, Traitor Vegeta, because this is Vegeta working for King Cold. The only thing that matters here is 19k critical, activate main for 1 green. If a field card is in a player's battle area, which it is, it always is in this deck, play this card from your hand. 1 energy, limit 1, 19k crit. That you can always play because you will always have the big field in play. So yeah, what's not to love here? Just 2 copies of Fated Rival Son Goku. I wanted to go with 3, but I wanted to come to as close to 50 cards as possible. This is just replacing the Gohan, the Hidden Might Son Gohan that used to be played in King Cold lists. Plus, it's better. It's double strike barrier, 30k. You cheat him out for 2 energy. It's easier to cheat him out. So yeah, definitely play this one. Standard package, Frieza, Paragus. I went with 3 copies of Dormant Potential Unleashed and 4 copies of Royal Supremacy. I know that Jamie's list is running 4 copies of Royal Supremacy and not Dormant. I'm not confident in dropping Dormant, so I chose to go with 3 of them. 2 copies of Homicidal Clones. By the way, Royal Supremacy of Renegade, which also KOs Wings. 1 copy of Secret ID, just to wipe the board. This is a phenomenal overwhelm, use it. And for our secret rare, the Boo Counter, just so that you can seal games basically with this one. Like, no negates, no counters, just go for the win, and that's basically it. Yeah, guys, let's just check out the Z deck. We're playing Friezas for some discard. We're playing 2 copies of Jiren, because why not? 1 of these Gokus and 1 of these Friezas, because sometimes you can get it to go off and then maybe you can KO something. So yeah, this is the list. Let's jump into the end screen. That's it for the video. Let me know in the comments below, what are your rogue picks for each color? Let me know what are your rogue picks, because everyone has a different definition of a rogue pick, so you might not agree with everything on my list, and it's fine. This is just my list. I want to hear your lists. I'm excited to see what players consider rogue decks in each color, so please Leave your thoughts and opinions in the comment section below. I read all of your comments. I try to respond to everything. I love our little community. And guys, please, before you leave, don't forget to share the video on social media. Hit those like and subscribe buttons. Help us grow. Help us reach 3,000 subs. 3,000 subs. 600 left to go by the end of BT21 spoiler season. I mean, help us reach it in general. If we hit it by the end of BT21 spoiler season, it's just gonna be mind-blowing. Guys, this has been Damien from The Lookout, and I'll see all of you in the next video.